We're counting down the 20 cheap British meals that kept families fed during the brutal recession of the early 1980s. When unemployment soared past 3 million, factories closed their gates for the last time, and household budgets stretched to breaking point, these were the dishes that appeared on kitchen tables across Britain. From tinned staples that cost pennies to stretchy stodge that silenced hungry stomachs, each entry reveals how a generation survived on ingenuity, bulk buying, and the stubborn refusal to let children go to bed hungry. Expect nostalgic favorites, forgotten standbys, and the unmistakable flavors of Thatcher-era austerity. Which recession meal claims the top spot? Let's begin our countdown with number 20. Number 20. Toast toppers brought a flash of convenience to kitchens where time and money ran equally short. Launched by Heinz in 1983, these small glass jars of creamy flavored spreads promised a hot meal in minutes, requiring nothing more than a toaster and a willing appetite. At just 45 pence a jar, toast toppers offered ham and cheese, chicken and mushroom, or prawn varieties, each one spooned thickly onto slices of warmed bread and slid under the grill until bubbling. For mothers juggling part-time shifts and school runs, it was a lifeline. No pans to scrub, no ingredients to measure, just a jar from the cupboard and tea on the table in 5 minutes flat. Children came to recognize the squat jars lined up in supermarket aisles, pointing and pleading for their favorite flavor. The taste was unmistakably processed, salty and rich with an artificial edge. But in homes where the gas bill competed with the grocery list, convenience won every argument. Office workers packed slices wrapped in foil for lunch. Students survived exam weeks on little else. Toast toppers never pretended to be gourmet, but they filled a gap that the recession had torn wide open. By the late 1980s, as prosperity slowly returned, the jars began to disappear from shelves. Their moment passed. Today they linger only in memory, a symbol of making do when making dinner felt like a luxury. Number 19. Liver and onions clung to the recession-era menu as the cheapest source of protein a family could find. Butchers sold lamb's liver for as little as 40 pence a pound in 1981, a price that made it the go-to choice for mothers watching every penny. The preparation was simple but unforgiving. Thin slices of liver, dusted with flour and fried in a slick of lard until the edges crisped, were served alongside soft onions cooked low and slow until they turned sweet and golden. The smell divided households sharply. Fathers who remembered wartime rations ate without complaint, soaking up the rich gravy with hunks of white bread. Children, less forgiving, pushed the iron dark slices around their plates, bargaining for permission to leave the table. In mining communities hit hardest by pit closures, liver appeared weekly, sometimes more. It stretched further than beef, required no roasting, and delivered the iron and nutrients that growing bodies needed. School nurses and health visitors quietly recommended it to families showing signs of strain. Supermarkets stocked it prominently, knowing that when the dole queue lengthened, liver sales rose. By the mid-1980s, chicken had begun its slow march toward the center of the British plate, and liver retreated to the edges of memory. Those who grew up eating it still recall the texture, dense and faintly metallic, the taste of getting by. Number 18. Faggots and peas stood as the working-class staple that refused to apologize for its origins. Made from offal, pig's liver, heart and belly meat minced together with onions, sage and breadcrumbs, faggots cost less than 60 pence for a family-sized pack by 1982. Mr. Brain's faggots, sold in supermarkets nationwide, became a household name, their cheerful packaging promising a filling meal for very little. Mothers heated them in rich onion gravy, serving them alongside mushy peas from a tin and a mound of instant mash. The combination was stodgy, savory, and deeply satisfying on cold evenings when the heating had been turned down to save on bills. In the West Midlands and South Wales, where faggot-making traditions ran deep, local butchers competed to offer the best. Fathers queued on Saturday mornings, debating seasoning and texture with the seriousness of football managers. Children unaware of what went into the brown, slightly crumbly spheres ate happily, grateful for a hot meal that did not involve liver's unmistakable appearance. By the decade's end, faggots had lost ground to convenience foods and changing tastes, but for those years when unemployment hovered near 12%, they were as reliable as the 6 o'clock news, a dish that took the parts no one else wanted and made them the heart of the family table. Number 17. Oxtail soup simmered on stovetops across Britain as the recession's answer to rising meat prices. Sold in iconic Heinz and Campbell's tins for around 25 pence each, it offered the illusion of a hearty stew at a fraction of the cost. The soup was thick, deeply savory, and flecked with soft vegetables and tiny shreds of meat clinging to the memory of the bone. Mothers heated it in dented saucepans, stretching a single tin to serve 2 or 3 children by adding water and extra bread for dipping. The taste was rich and warming, faintly gelatinous from the collagen that real oxtail would have given. In truth, most tinned versions contained little actual tail, but the name conjured comfort and substance that belied its humble price. For families where the main earner had been made redundant, oxtail soup was lunch and sometimes dinner, served with crackers or toast fingers lined up on the side of the bowl. Oral histories recall the sound of spoons scraping against tin bowls, children bargaining over who got the last crust. When fresh meat was unthinkable, tinned soup kept hunger at arm's length. Today, oxtail soup survives on supermarket shelves, but its role as a lifeline has long since faded, replaced by memories of kitchens where every tin was counted and nothing went to waste. Number 16. Welsh rarebit offered a touch of decadence when cheese was the only luxury left in the fridge. Unlike plain cheese on toast, rarebit required a proper sauce, a mixture of grated cheddar, mustard, Worcestershire sauce, and a splash of milk or ale, melted together and spooned over thick slices of toast before grilling until golden. In 1983, a block of cheddar cost around 80 pence, enough to make rarebit for the whole family with careful slicing and a mother's practiced eye. The dish felt special, elevated, even celebratory, despite costing almost nothing. Fathers returning from fruitless job interviews found comfort in the sharp, tangy flavor, while children scraped every last bubble of browned cheese from their plates. In Welsh valleys devastated by steel closures, rarebit appeared on Sunday tea tables as a proud reminder that hardship did not mean joylessness. Cookery columns in women's magazines offered endless variations, adding tomatoes, onions, or even a fried egg on top. The mustard's heat, the Worcestershire's umami depth, and the slow melt of cheese combined into something far greater than its ingredients suggested. Welsh rarebit was proof that with skill and a little imagination, a recession supper could still taste like home. Number 15. EGG and chips became the universal fallback when the cupboards ran bare and payday was still a week away. Eggs, at just 50 pence a dozen in 1982, were the cheapest protein available, and potatoes bought in bulk from market stalls cost pennies per pound. The meal required nothing more than a deep pan of oil, a frying pan, and 10 minutes of attention. Chips emerged golden and crisp. Eggs slid gently into sizzling fat until the whites set and the yolks remained runny, ready to be broken with the corner of a chip. For children, it was a treat, the salty crunch of homemade chips far superior to anything from a takeaway. For parents, it was salvation, a hot meal conjured from almost nothing. In households where the main earner had been laid off from factories in the Midlands or shipyards in the northeast, egg and chips appeared 3, sometimes 4 times a week. There was no shame in it, only the quiet determination to keep everyone fed. Cafes and transport stops served it too, a working-class staple that crossed every regional boundary. The dish needed no recipe, no cookbook, just the muscle memory of generations, who understood that hunger could be defeated with heat, fat, and the simplest ingredients. Egg and chips was survival, served on a plate and eaten in grateful silence. Number 14. Cheese and onion pie stretched a few shillings into a dish that fed the whole family with room to spare. Short crust pastry, made from flour, margarine, and cold water, encased a filling of sliced potatoes, onions, and grated cheese, baked until the top turned golden and the inside melted into creamy, savory layers. Mothers learned to roll pastry thin, knowing that a heavier hand meant less filling and hungrier children. The pie emerged from the oven steaming, its edges crimped with care, and was sliced into wedges that seemed to grow smaller as the week wore on. In 1981, the ingredients for a full pie cost less than £1, making it a mainstay in kitchens where every meal was a calculation. In mining villages and steel towns, cheese and onion pie was Friday tea, a reward for surviving another week on short rations. Leftovers, if any survived, were eaten cold for Saturday lunch, the pastry softened but still satisfying. For vegetarian families, rare but not unknown, it was a lifeline, a meatless meal that no one questioned. The recipe passed between neighbors, scribbled on index cards and handed over garden fences, a small act of solidarity in hard times. Cheese and onion pie asked for nothing but patience and a warm oven, and in return, it delivered comfort by the plateful. Number 13. Fish finger sandwiches became the unofficial anthem of Recession-era childhood. Captain Birdseye smiled from freezer cabinets as mothers reached for boxes of 10 or 20, priced at under £1 and stretched across multiple meals. The preparation was effortless. Grill or fry until the orange breadcrumb coating crisped, then wedge the fish fingers between 2 slices of white bread, slathered with butter and a squeeze of ketchup. Children devoured them after school, leaving trails of crumbs across kitchen tables while parents eyed the clock and worried about bills. In homes where fresh fish was an unthinkable expense, frozen fingers offered a facsimile of the sea, mild and inoffensive enough to please even the fussiest eater. The sandwich format meant no plates to wash, no cutlery to gather, just a quick wipe of the counter and on to the next task. By 1984, Birdseye reported record sales, driven by families who could no longer afford the fish and chip shop on Friday nights. The fish finger sandwich was democracy in edible form, served in council flats and suburban semis alike, bridging the gap between scarcity and satisfaction. Decades later, chefs would ironically elevate it with brioche buns and artisan tartare sauce. But for those who lived through the early 1980s, it will always taste of survival wrapped in sliced bread. Number 12. Shepherd's pie anchored the midweek menu as the Recession's answer to stretching mince beyond its limits. A pound of beef mince, sold for around 80 pence in 1982, was browned with onions, extended with carrots, peas, and a generous splash of gravy, then buried beneath a thick blanket of mashed potato. Mothers learned to use more vegetables than meat, knowing that the gravy would carry the flavor and the mash would fill the gaps. The pie emerged bubbling from ovens set low to save electricity, its top forked into ridges that crisped under the grill. In kitchens across the industrial heartlands, shepherd's pie was a weekly ritual, prepared in battered Pyrex dishes passed down from mothers and grandmothers. Children competed for the crispy edges, scraping their forks across the browned potato, while parents portioned out the meaty center with careful equity. Leftovers were reheated the next day. The flavors deepened overnight, and the mash turned slightly chewy, but no less welcome. For families on the dole, shepherd's pie represented ingenuity, the art of making a little go a long way. It was humble, hearty, and utterly reliable. A dish that asked only for patience and rewarded with warmth. The recession would end, but the habit of stretching mince never quite faded. Number 11. Spam fritters emerged from the deep fryer as the recession's guilty pleasure, a slice of processed pork encased in crispy batter and served with chips or mushy peas. A tin of Spam cost just 55 pence in 1983, and a single can yielded enough slices to feed a family of 4. The meat, pink and salty, was sliced thick, dipped in a simple batter of flour, water, and a pinch of salt, then lowered into hot oil until golden. The smell was unmistakable, a mixture of frying fat and processed pork that drifted through terraced streets on Friday evenings. Chip shops served them alongside battered sausages and fish, offering a cheaper alternative for customers counting their coins. At home, mothers fried them in repurposed lard, timing each batch carefully to avoid the kitchen filling with smoke. Children ate them with their fingers, blowing on the hot batter before biting through to the soft, salty meat inside. The taste was unashamedly artificial, but in a decade marked by factory closures and benefit cuts, authenticity was a luxury few could afford. Spam fritters were fun, cheap, and filling, a brief escape from the grim arithmetic of the household budget. They faded from chip shop menus as prosperity returned, but their memory lingers, crispy and defiant. Number 10. Corned beef pie filled oven dishes across Britain. When fresh meat was beyond reach and the budget demanded creativity. A single tin of corned beef, priced at around 60 pence in 1981, was stretched with onions, potatoes, and a splash of oxo gravy, then enclosed in pastry and baked until the crust turned flaky and golden. The pie was dense and satisfying, each slice revealing layers of pink meat and soft vegetable, bound together by the rich, salty gravy. In council estates and pit villages, corned beef pie was Sunday dinner when there was no joint to roast. Mothers crimped the pastry edges with practiced fingers, knowing that presentation mattered even when the ingredients were humble. Children ate without complaint, grateful for the warmth and the rare appearance of pastry on the table. The dish had roots stretching back to wartime, when tinned beef arrived from across the Atlantic, and the recession revived its fortunes with bleak efficiency. By the mid-1980s, as supermarkets expanded their fresh meat counters and freezers became standard, corned beef pie retreated from the weekly menu. Its memory, however, endures. The scrape of a fork against a tin plate, the steam rising from a broken crust, and the quiet pride of making something from almost nothing. Number 9. Mince and tatties sustained Scottish and Northern families through the recession's darkest years with a simplicity that bordered on poetry. A pound of beef mince, browned and simmered with onions, and a crumbled oxo cube was ladled over a mountain of mashed potatoes, the gravy pooling in the valleys. At under £1 for both mince and potatoes, the dish fed 4 or 5 for the price of a pint. The preparation required nothing but a single pan and a pot for boiling, and the results were ready in under an hour. In Glasgow tenements and Durham pit villages, mince and tatties was the midweek staple that everyone recognized and no one mocked. Fathers home from the dole office found it waiting, steaming on the table while children raced through homework to claim their portion. The mash was made with margarine when butter was too dear, and the mince was stretched with oats or lentils when the budget demanded. Oral histories recall the comfort of that first forkful, the warmth spreading through tired bodies as the evening news reported more factory closures. Mince and tatties was not glamorous, but it was honest, a dish that promised nothing but delivery. For a generation shaped by the early 1980s, it remains the taste of home under pressure. Tinned spaghetti on toast stood as the emergency meal that required neither skill nor time, just a tin opener and a working toaster. Heinz dominated the market, its familiar turquoise label promising soft pasta in a sweet, tangy tomato sauce for around 20 pence a tin. Mothers heated it in saucepans while bread browned under the grill, the whole operation complete in 5 minutes. The taste was unmistakably processed, the sauce clinging to overcooked pasta in a way that bore no resemblance to Italian cuisine, but for British children of the 1980s, it was comfort incarnate. The dish appeared at lunchtime, after school, and on evenings when cooking felt impossible. In homes where both parents worked multiple jobs to cover rent, tinned spaghetti was the babysitter's ally. Safe and simple enough for older siblings to prepare. The orange sauce stained lips and fingers, and the bread, softened by the heat, collapsed pleasingly under fork or spoon. By 1985, Heinz reported that the average British household consumed over 20 tins of baked products annually, with spaghetti claiming a significant share. Tinned spaghetti on toast asked nothing and gave just enough, a small act of kindness from the store cupboard. Number 7. Sausage casserole stretched cheap bangers into a one-pot wonder that fed families for 2 days running. Pork sausages, sold 8 to a pack for under 70 pence in 1982, were browned and simmered with tinned tomatoes, baked beans, onions, and whatever vegetables lurked at the back of the fridge. The casserole bubbled slowly in the oven or on the stovetop, the flavors melding into a thick, savory stew that demanded nothing but crusty bread to complete. Mothers made it on Sunday, knowing that Monday's reheated portion would taste even better. The sausages softened and the sauce deepened overnight. The dish was endlessly adaptable, accepting carrots, peppers, or even sliced potatoes without complaint. In kitchens across the recession-hit north, it represented economy without deprivation, a hot meal that looked generous even when the ingredients were humble. Children fished for sausages with competitive intensity, counting to ensure fair distribution, while parents stretched the sauce with extra beans to fill every plate. Sausage casserole was the Sunday roast's poorer cousin, unpretentious and forgiving, asking only for time and a low flame. It survives today in family recipe books, scribbled on stained cards, a reminder of the years when ingenuity was the most valuable ingredient of all. Number 6. Cheesy pasta emerged as the recession's answer to the question of how to fill young stomachs with almost nothing. A packet of dried pasta cost 25 pence, and a block of cheddar cost 80 pence. And together they produced enough food to silence a tableful of hungry children. The method was universal. Boil the pasta until soft, drain it, then stir in grated cheese and a knob of margarine until the strands glistened with melted fat. Some mothers added a splash of milk to stretch the sauce further, others crumbled in a stock cube for depth. The result was rich, sticky, and deeply comforting, each forkful trailing strings of molten cheese. Children ate it from plastic bowls in front of the television, a rare treat that felt like permission rather than poverty. In bedsits and council flats, cheesy pasta was the solo parent's salvation, ready in 15 minutes and cleared in 5. It required no recipe, no measuring, just the instinct that came from feeding a family on air. By the mid-1980s, branded macaroni cheese in boxes began to appear on supermarket shelves, but the homemade version retained its hold, cheaper and somehow more honest. Cheesy pasta was the taste of making do, of stretching every penny until it screamed. and of the small victories hidden in the simplest meals. Number 5. Bubble and squeak returned to Recession-era tables as the answer to the eternal question of what to do with Monday's leftovers. Cold mashed potato and boiled cabbage from Sunday's roast were mashed together, shaped into rough patties, and fried in a slick of lard or bacon fat until the edges crisped and browned. The dish cost nothing beyond the ingredients already paid for, making it essential in households where the weekly shop was calculated down to the last penny. The smell of frying cabbage divided opinion as sharply as ever, but the taste, salty, savory, and enriched by the rendered fat, won most arguments. Mothers served it with a fried egg on top, the yolk breaking over the crispy surface in a golden flood. In some homes, leftover carrots, sprouts, or even peas joined the mix, each variation defended with the passion of family tradition. Diaries and oral histories from the period recall the ritual. Monday lunch, bubble and squeak, father groaning but cleaning his plate. It was thrift made visible, a dish that wore its origins proudly and refused to pretend otherwise. The Recession gave bubble and squeak a second life, rescuing it from nostalgia and returning it to necessity. For those who lived through those years, it remains a taste of discipline and the quiet triumph of wasting nothing. Number 4. Pot noodle arrived in British shops in 1979 and swiftly became the symbol of Recession-era convenience. Priced at around 35 pence per pot, it required nothing but boiling water and 3 minutes of patience. The flavors chicken and mushroom, beef and tomato, and the luridly green curry bore little resemblance to real food. But for students, shift workers, and families too exhausted to cook, authenticity was beside the point. The styrofoam pot, peeled back to reveal a tangle of dried noodles and a sachet of powdered flavoring, became a fixture of bedsit kitchens and factory break rooms. Children begged for them as treats, drawn by the novelty and the promise of something different from the usual rotation. The taste was salty, vaguely artificial, and strangely addictive, each slurp delivering a hit of MSG and nostalgia. Golden Wonder, the brand owner, marketed it with knowing humor, leaning into the product's reputation as food of last resort. By 1984, pot noodle had become a cultural phenomenon, referenced in comedy sketches and student survival guides. It was not proud, not healthy, and not homemade, but for a generation raised on Recession budgets, it was quick, cheap, and utterly reliable. The pot remains on shelves today, its legacy secure as the taste of getting by. Number 3. Chip butty reigned supreme as the Recession's most defiant comfort food, a sandwich that celebrated carbohydrates with unapologetic joy. Thick-cut chips, fried at home or bought from the local chippy, were piled between 2 slices of white bread, spread thickly with butter. The heat from the chips melted the butter into a slick of golden fat, and the bread softened to cradle its cargo. A splash of vinegar or a squeeze of ketchup completed the construction, and the whole assemblage was eaten quickly before it could cool or collapse. In the industrial north, chip butties were eaten at bus stops, on factory floors, and at kitchen tables where conversation paused only for chewing. The cost was negligible. Potatoes bought by the sack, bread at 30 pence a loaf, and fat saved from the Sunday roast. Children carried them to school wrapped in newspaper, the grease staining the print, while the smell announced their contents to envious classmates. For families on the dole, the chip butty was an act of quiet resistance, a refusal to let hardship strip away all pleasure. It was filling, satisfying, and utterly classless, eaten by miners and managers alike when hunger demanded immediate satisfaction. The chip butty has never disappeared, but its Recession-era prominence when it sometimes served as dinner rather than a snack speaks to a time when bread and potatoes were the twin pillars of survival. Beans on toast became the defining meal of the 1980s recession, a dish so ubiquitous it transcended class, region, and circumstance. A tin of Heinz baked beans cost 15 pence in 1981, and a loaf of sliced white bread could be had for 30 pence, making the combination the cheapest hot meal available to any family in Britain. The preparation required nothing but a saucepan and a toaster. Heat the beans until they are bubbling, and ladle them over toast buttered to the edges. The taste was sweet, savory, and unmistakably British, the sauce soaking into the bread while the beans provided substance and protein. In homes where the electricity meter demanded coins and the gas bill loomed unpaid, beans on toast was lunch, dinner, and sometimes both. Children ate it without complaint, the familiar orange sauce a constant in lives otherwise marked by uncertainty. University students survived entire terms on little else, while pensioners on fixed incomes found in it a reliable staple that never failed. The dish appeared in workplace canteens, hospital cafeterias, and school dining halls, democratic in its reach and unapologetic in its simplicity. Heinz sold over 1.5 million tins of beans per day during the recession's peak, a statistic that speaks louder than any government report. Beans on toast was not just a meal, it was a lifeline, the taste of a nation refusing to go hungry. Number 1. Bread and jam, the simplest meal of all, claims the top spot as the recession's ultimate survivor. When every other option had been exhausted, when the cupboards held nothing but the basics and payday remained impossibly distant, bread and jam appeared on the table. A loaf of sliced white cost 30 pence, a jar of supermarket strawberry jam perhaps 40 pence, and together they stretched across days of school lunches, hurried breakfasts and suppers eaten in silence. Mothers spread the jam thin, knowing that the jar had to last the week, while children eyed each other's slices to ensure fairness. The taste was achingly sweet, the soft bread yielding beneath the sticky spread, offering comfort that no statistic could quantify. In the hardest-hit regions, where unemployment reached 20% and benefit payments barely covered rent, bread and jam was not a choice, but a necessity. It appeared in packed lunches wrapped in cling film, on plates pushed toward children who had learned not to ask for more. Oral histories from the decade recall the quiet shame and the stubborn resilience, the way families closed ranks and made do without complaint. Bread and jam required no cooking, no preparation, and almost no money, just the willingness to fill an empty stomach and face another day. It was survival in its purest form, a meal that asked for nothing and gave just enough. For millions who lived through the 1980s recession, bread and jam remains the taste of endurance, the flavor of getting through, and the proof that even the humblest food can carry a family forward when nothing else remains. Across all 20 entries, from the convenience of toast toppers to the stark simplicity of bread and jam at the very top, these recession-era meals tell a powerful story of resilience, creativity, and survival. Some dishes, like spam fritters and pot noodles, carry a hint of guilty nostalgia, while others, such as mince and tatties and shepherd's pie, reveal the ingenuity of mothers stretching every ingredient to its limit. The common thread throughout is determination, the refusal to let unemployment, benefit cuts, and rising prices defeat the family table. Tinned goods, cheap cuts, and carbohydrates recur in nearly every entry, underscoring how necessity shaped the national palate during Britain's most challenging peacetime decade. This ranking is not just about what people ate, but what those meals represented. The quiet heroism of keeping children fed, the solidarity of neighbors sharing recipes, and the stubborn hope that better days would come. In the end, these 20 cheap meals are more than recipes. They are the taste of a generation that endured, adapted, and, against the odds, found moments of warmth and comfort around the kitchen table.